Hello, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to the Eastway Garden and Overbrook Town Hall. I'd like to really thank everybody for taking some time out of their evening to learn about development in our both of our wards. So I have joining me my friend and colleague Marty Carr, who is the city councillor for Alta Vista, and we're very pleased that you can join us tonight. Even though this meeting is being facilitated through Zoom and it is being held on the traditional territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation, the original custodians of the unceded land in which the city of Ottawa is located. We extend our respect to all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples for their valuable past and present contributions to this land. We're happy to be joined with multiple members of city staff, as well as a representative from Canada Lands Company tonight to provide you some information on development files, both within Overbrook and within Eastway Gardens, are in Rideau-Rockcliffe and Alta Vista, respectively. We just want you to be aware that this presentation this evening is being recorded, and there is an intent to place this online as well as a record for other participants who might not be able to join us. I also want to recognize one of our colleagues who I believe has joined this call. So I do see that Stephanie Plante, councillor for Rideau-Vanier, has joined us as well. So I just want to say hello to her and hello to all. So thank you so much for joining us. We will have an opportunity for people to ask questions, and we will invite questions through the chat facility on Zoom.
Yeah. Thanks, Councillor King, and good evening to everyone. So as Rawlson, Councillor King mentioned, I'm Marty Carr. I'm the councillor for Alta Vista, and absolutely thrilled to have this meeting tonight. I've been in discussions with Councillor King for a little bit about getting these two communities together. We border, Councillor King and I border the ward right now, and we've recognized that there's tremendous change coming to both edges of our ward where they meet in Coventry and Eastway Gardens. And it's really important to keep people up to date on what's happening and know that you can reach out to us. I just would like to just say, moi, je parle français aussi. Alors, si vous avez des questions en français, vous pouvez toujours les demander en français. Aujourd'hui, les présentations ce soir vont être en anglais, mais vous avez toujours la chance de demander des questions en français. I would just like to introduce, we do have some members of the planning staff here. So for the Ward 13 files, those are going to be on Coventry, and we have Jean-Charles Renaud, JC Renaud here. And Ward 18 files is in Eastway Gardens. It's Tracy Scaramazino. They were previously, a lot of them were looked after by another planner, Sean Moore. He's moved on to the Lansdowne 2.0 project. And we also have Mary Jarvis here from Canada Lands, who'll be talking about some of the developments on Tremblay. So thank you very much, and very happy to have you all here tonight. I guess should I introduce the next speaker probably?
Yes, and I think we can turn it over to JC to talk about the files in Overbrook.
Yes, thanks, Councillor King.
Great, thank you, Councillor King and Councillor Carr. So while the presentation appears on my screen, I'll introduce myself once more, but my name is Jean-Charles Renaud, or you can call me JC, whichever is easiest for you. Je parle français aussi, donc si vous avez des questions à me poser en français, je vais me faire un plaisir d'y répondre en français. However, the presentation tonight is going to be in English. So as soon as it pops up on the screen, I can start. All right, and we're already at the next slide, please. Okay, so the files that I'll be covering in Ward 13 are both on Coventry, practically across the street from one another, 400 and 455 Coventry Road. There are obviously many more applications going on in this ward. However, tonight, we'll focus on these two, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. So I'll just start with a brief overview of both, and I don't want to hijack the format, but I guess if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them after I've covered both properties. Next slide, please. Again, next slide. Okay, so this is for 400 Coventry Road. So the applications that we have in front of us at the moment are for an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment. The proposal is for the future development of 7 high-rise towers. And the proposal also includes a new road that you see on the middle here, as well as a new public park that you see, well, that green space that says parkland. Both of those features are identified in the TOD plans for the Saint Laurent TOD area. So what you see right now is conceptual at this point. We haven't received a site plan control application for this proposal yet, but I'm told one is imminent. So we are expecting one to be submitted any moment now. So a bit of statistics for you. So what the proposal is looking to achieve, like I said, 7 high-rise buildings. In total, there would be an estimated 1,690 residential units, 1,700 square meters of commercial space, roughly 1,100 vehicular parking spaces, and 845 bicycle parking spaces. Of course, this is spread out throughout the site, a combination of above ground, below ground parking to be built through phases over multiple years. So those are the brief overview of this one, or maybe I could just ask, so for anybody that's curious, the official plan amendment is to address an increase in height. So currently the portion closest to Coventry allows for heights up to 20 stories, and the portion closest to the highway, the highway 417, allows up to 30 stories. So they're not proposing to go any higher than 30 stories. They're simply requesting to allow Tower D, which is the one at the intersection of Belfast and the New Street, to the north of the New Street, that is proposed to be 25 stories instead of 20. So that's what they're proposing for an OPA, and the zoning bylaw amendment would be to generally rezone the lands to TD, increase the building heights similar to the OPA, and reduce some setback requirements where necessary. Again, this is very conceptual in nature, but we are actively reviewing these two, the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment files at this time. Okay, so next slide, please. We can move on to 455 Coventry, which is to the north of this site. Similar situation. So we had received a zoning bylaw amendment for this one. There's no site plan control submitted for this proposal. So what you see in front of you is even more highly conceptual than the previous one, because this was just kind of a demonstration by the applicant of what could be seen on this site with the proposed zoning. So what they were proposing to zone was to zone from a light industrial use to a TD zone, which is in line with our secondary plans and everything like that. So the application actually was approved by council in March of this year. So the zoning is in effect, but we still don't have a site plan control application at this time. So that's where it sits. And as far as statistics goes, 648 residential units and 574 vehicular parking spaces. Bear in mind, these are, again, conceptual plans and just an exercise to demonstrate what could happen depending on who picks up the property eventually and redevelops it. Could be something that's a bit different, but within the parameters of the TD2 zone that they've obtained. So, and I skipped over that, but what's proposed is a 1 mid-rise building and 3 high-rise buildings ranging from 6 to 20 stories, which is in line with the TOD plan for the area. So those are the two files, or the two applications on Coventry that were highlighted as being of interest. I'd be happy to answer any questions if it's an appropriate time to do so.
Yes, please pose your questions or any questions in the chat. Be much appreciated. And in the meantime, I just wanted to briefly say that I'm supportive generally of both applications, and I actually provided some comments to that effect. We're seeing a transition from light industrial use to transit-oriented development, and I think that's important because as development evolves along Coventry Road, it's important to note that this corridor is in a protected major transit station area. So the applications that are proposed are really implementing, as we heard, secondary plan policies around the Tremblay, Saint Laurent, Saraville stations, in a sense, to establish transit supported densities and building heights in proximity to the rapid transit network. Translation, I think it makes sense to really situate this density on this corridor next to the massive mass transit system that we are developing. And it also makes sense because increased density along Coventry Road can accommodate additional density, residential density, I think, in one of the most logical locations in Rideau-Rockcliffe, providing ample active and public transportation connectivity, and potentially encouraging the development of new mixed-use commercial amenities that would support the goal of creating truly livable 15-minute neighborhoods. So I'm generally supportive, and I think it's important to seek the redevelopment of Coventry Road. And now I know that there's some questions coming in, so I will pass it back to JC again.
Okay, so let's go up the list here. And all right. Oh, sorry, I said TOD and I didn't explain myself. I'm just used to using the term. So transit-oriented development. Thank you to Michelle for that. Okay, and OPA, did I skip over that one as well? Official plan amendment, great. So rental or purchase, I believe it's rental. However, those details are not available at this time because of the status of, or the state of the project we're in. Provisions for affordable low-cost housing. At the last community meeting we had for 400 Coventry, I believe, and Councillor King can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I remember the applicant being very supportive or very on board with providing affordable housing. There is no quote as to how many or how much, but those are the types of details that would be looked at the site plan control stage, which is, like I said earlier, imminent.
That's correct. I don't think that they made a specific written commitment, but they were interested in exploring that. And I know that they were focused on a rental approach, rental model.
Okay. Who is the developer? So I just had that pulled up 2 seconds ago. For 400 Coventry Road, I have Groupe Oradev Inc. I believe they are out of Quebec, but that's all I have. And for the other one is for 455 Coventry. The owner is Belfast Holding Limited, Prism Construction Limited. However, these are the group that did the official plan amendment and sorry, not for this one, the zoning bylaw amendment. So I don't believe it's very reflective of who may end up actually developing those lands for 455 Coventry. And the timelines for construction, I mean, like a seven high-rise project could take a lot of time. I expect perhaps the first phase could be 1 or 2 towers, and then the remaining towers, they come in perhaps as the market demands. I'm not an expert in this on the development side of things, but I could expect it could take from 15 to 30 years to fully build out, perhaps, and that depends on a lot of things. Traffic. So how would traffic be handled with the increase in people? That's a great question. Those are the types of elements that would be reviewed in details at the site plan control stage. So one of the submission requirements would be transportation impact assessment that would be reviewed internally by staff.
The other thing I would just interject just briefly is to remind residents as well that there is a process underway, an environmental assessment on Coventry Road, and looking from the piece from Belfast to St. Laurent. So that will be a public process subject to a lot of public consultation as to what improvements should look like on that segment of Coventry Road. So we would also invite you, once that process is underway, to get involved in that. I've already submitted comments for the initial report that initiated the environmental assessment, and those comments really reflected some of the historical concerns of the community association in Overbrook about enhancements to active transportation infrastructure pieces. But just make sure that you watch out for that EA. That will give you plenty of opportunity as well to talk about traffic management within that segment of the corridor.
Okay, great. Thank you, Councillor. And just maybe to wrap up that answer to that question, the question ends with saying that not everyone will be using bike or transit. We understand not everybody does so. However, efforts will be made to control the amount of parking that is provided on site, because we are very aware that it is in close proximity to rapid transit, and the whole reason why we're seeing a possibility of upzoning up to 20 and 30 stories is due to this proximity. So hopefully we can meet in the middle in terms of parking, vehicular parking versus bike parking, and the use of transit. Okay, so thumbs up. There are plans to improve Preston Park and also facilitate access to the parks from these two developments. So I'm not aware specifically of any plans. However, if you send me an email, I will happily follow up with the parks planner on the file and get you some answers.
Absolutely. And I'll also interject there just to say, obviously, with the construction will come development charges, as well as the new equivalent of CIL funds that would enter into the city. Of course, that's under revision with Bill 109 and Bill 23, et cetera. However, there would be some consideration, obviously, with more density for us to enhance our parks. That would be at least my preference. And of course, as we know, if we're looking at 400 Coventry Road, within that development, there is a proposed public park. So that is part of the plan to ensure that if there's that density, there will be enhanced green space. So it is something that we will continue to examine as we move forward with the development process. But it would be my inclination to ensure that we are enhancing the parkland in alignment with what is being built to really keep up with the demand.
That's correct. And maybe further to that, you'll notice that the plans I showed you for 400 Coventry has the park located on the western edge of the site, so that it can be expanded in the future as more properties come in line for development. So yes, Councillor is right, where we'll be looking at providing the appropriate park infrastructure for the area.
And my understanding as well, and this is just in the last budget, I believe that there was a budget allocation around the potential for the pre-development of that park. So that is definitely part and parcel of some of the plans moving forward. And like I said, we'll have a continuing discussion with the community association about the enhancements. Also, in some of the comments that I provided on these files, we're also talking about active transportation safety, ensuring that we have proper pedestrian access to those parks from the north side of Coventry Road, and proper interconnection with the community as well.
Okay, next question. TOD plans help guide how to develop these two properties along Coventry, but there are other lands. The new OP adds them on to the north side of Coventry at Lola, not yet in the secondary plan or the TOD. Will those be added soon? Stephen, I apologize, but I'm not up to date on that subject. So, but again, if you want to send me a quick email, I know you have my email address. I'd be happy to follow up with you on that as soon as I can get more information. We will have quite a bit of traffic from the government proposed building at Tremblay as well. Correct. And again, just to reiterate that we will be looking at the transportation, not just from how to manage the vehicles, but also how to direct people away from simply looking at the automobile for their main means of transportation. So it's kind of a multi angled approach, perhaps, but we will definitely be looking at that at the site plan stage. Okay, and the last one that I see here, we are already seeing an increase in daily street parking at Eastway Gardens. Will there be enough parking with the proposed building and towers? So this will all be looked at more in details at the site plan stage once we know exactly how many units versus how many vehicular parking spaces are being proposed. So to answer your questions right now, we don't have that answer, but city staff, including staff in charge of looking at on-street parking, will be circulated and will be asked to comment on the proposals as they come in. And I believe that is it, unless I'm missing something or somebody else wants to chime in, but those are the questions that I see.
Well, if there are no other questions, and I think we do have one additional question that just came in. Can we have an update here or somewhere on the two developments that are southwest of Tremblay and Belfast? So that might be coming up next. So because we'll be dealing with Eastway Gardens next. If there are no other questions on the Ward 13 files, I'd really just like to thank JC for the in-depth update on development on Coventry Road. And as he's noted, you can always reach out to JC as the lead planner, or to my office if you have continuing concerns. And he has just put his email address in the chat. Marty.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor King. I just one question that I frequently get is about the status of the baseball stadium on Coventry Road. Did you say anything about that? Or do you have an update on that at all?
We can provide a bit of an update on that. So as you might know, we had undertaken a visioning exercise in the last term. So I had directed council to moved a motion which directed at council planning and recreation staff to work with all interested members of council and other stakeholders, whether they're local or national groups, as well as residents, to develop a vision for use and redevelopment of the site, identifying opportunities for increased community usage of the stadium and its exterior. And so we held visioning exercises in 2020 that would look at, like I said, increased public and community usage of the facility, opportunities for increased community usage outside of the baseball season, and also opportunities to attract a more diverse mix of sport uses. So that community engagement occurred in June 2022, and ultimately will include an analysis of all options of the site. And my understanding is that at the end of the day, a report will come back to Finance and Corporate Services Committee that would set the stage for options and analysis. and it would be a first step towards a potential secondary plan for the site. So right now we're not in receipt of that report yet. Staff, to my understanding, is still undertaking work, but the city did obviously make a commitment in the form of a lease that was executed with the Titans, which is a combination of a partnership between a Winnipeg former mayor and entrepreneur, Sam Katz, as well as OSEG, the Ottawa Sports and Entertainment Group. And as we know, the Titans have signed a lease for that facility for 10 years. So there's going to be a team hopefully there for that period of time. I think that they're really committed, that ownership group is committed to trying to make the team viable and work. And so that will be its use, but the land surrounding it, as well as the uses within, are going to be examined.
Okay, thank you, Councillor King. And before I introduce Ward 18 files, I see JC's got a question now too, or something to add.
Yes, thank you. And it's not about the baseball stadium. However, I do appreciate that update. I'm a big fan of baseball. But something I wanted to add, because it is a question that I have gotten for these files, and I'm sure it's something that the people on the call are thinking about or asking themselves, is what happens about schools and services. And we're adding so many people to this area, and it's not just about parking, it's about access to all of these things. And the answer is, as far as the applications we have in front of us today, I am involving my colleagues in the policy group that are looking at community planning. So that is in the back of our mind at the moment. They appear to be relatively confident that as far as the earlier stages of these developments, because they are multi-year developments, but at least in the early stages, the schools and services in the area can facilitate the new residents coming in. However, all school boards are circulated in these applications, and I have gotten comments from them, so they are very well engaged. And as far as services and things like that, these are mixed use developments, so there are opportunities to incorporate these types of services directly on site as needed. So what I can encourage everybody on the call to do is to provide me comments that I can send back to the applicant once these site plan control applications come in. And these specific pressures as they exist, and as you know them better than anybody else since you live in the community, then if you send them to me, I can provide them to the applicant and make sure that that you're heard.
Thank you. So I guess we'll go to Tracy. Are you ready to present on the Ward 18 file?
I am, Councillor, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. And after that, we'll go to Mayor Jarvis specifically to talk to the Canada lands, and just noting in all the comments just how interlinked these areas will be. And Councillor King spoke a lot to the active transportation, and right now there is a study underway, and I know at least one person here participated in a consultation group the other night on trying to expand the pedestrian connection from the transit station, Tremblay, over to train yards. So eventually, hopefully, we'll have, to join up with the Max Keeping Bridge, we'll have a lot of pedestrian activity between the two neighborhoods and be able to work even closer with Councillor King. So I'll let it go to you, Tracy, with all the development in my ward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I will start off with a quick update on 25 Pickering Avenue. So some of you may be familiar with this file. It's been going on for quite a number of years. I've just recently inherited the file from my colleague, but essentially this application is in for a draft plan of subdivision to develop the lands with 6 blocks for 6 new buildings, a new public road, a new private road, and a new municipal park to be located in the center of the site. At this time, the draft plan of subdivision has been approved, and it is now in the hands of the applicant, where they are required to go through and clear all of the conditions that were part of the original draft approval process. And so they are working through that right now with the city and with the utility companies to make sure that they are resolving all of the issues before they get started. Their hope at this point, or when I spoke to them last about their timing, is they were looking to start demolition in August, and then they would like to get into the road construction through the fall and winter of this year, so 2023, 2024. And that point, they would be excavating for the road, putting in the city services that would be required through the road, and doing that work through the fall and winter. They would then be coming into the city for site plan control applications for each of the buildings. They are proposing to start with one building first. It was this site down here, this location down here in the lower left-hand corner. That was the building that they would start with. And so they would likely apply for site plan control next year. And at that point, it would go through full public consultation. The community associations would be informed. There would be a sign on site. The councillor would obviously be aware and informed as that process goes through. And that's pretty much all there is to say on this file. It's still pretty high level. There isn't really a lot of detail. The site is zoned. I believe it will allow up to a 30-story building, but we don't have any specifics in terms of the heights of the buildings or a design or anything at that point. Those will all come through the site plan control application. So I can then move on to 1399 Avenue U. So again, this is a site that has been around for a number of years. The site plan has gone through. It is for 2 mid-rise buildings, a 5 and a 6-story residential building, and it's located just to the south of the Alphabet Streets and to the west of the CLC and federal government lands at Tremblay. This file is basically 99% complete. It is almost ready for approval. However, the developer seems to be taking a bit of time. I think they're wanting to better understand what is happening with the federal government lands and the CLC development to the east. And I believe we have Mary Jarvis here from CLC who will be speaking to that later on, and she can explain what the timing is. But I believe this proposal specifically is likely waiting to find out how quickly or what the timing will be for the CLC federal government lands. And that's about it. This application, if people aren't aware of exactly what it is, as I said, it's a 5 and 6-story building. They have a lot of underground parking. There is some surface parking in the back. There is a proposal for a pedestrian connection that will run through the site to meet up with the CLC lands to the east. There will also be a, originally there was the proposal to have a municipal park located on those CLC lands. So we'll have to wait to see exactly what happens, but there will be that pedestrian connection. There will be access to the site. Again, the ultimate goal was to have access to this development through the realignment of Tremblay Road. And that realignment of Tremblay Road is also part of the CLC federal government lands. And so again, things are a little bit up in the air. As I said, the developer hasn't come back in yet to say they want to start anytime within the next short time frame. But if they do start ahead of the CLC federal government land, they will likely, they'll obviously need to gain access from the Alphabet Streets, which I know is not ideal, and we'll have to make sure that there is traffic management and construction management plans to ensure the safety of all the users of the street. I know there's a lot of children that access their school bus those locations. So we'll just have to deal with that as things come in. As I said, we don't know what the timing or where things stand at this point. Sarah, you have a question?
Yeah, sorry, Tracy, let me just jump in for a second. I did speak with the developer CLV who has proposed the site plan at 1399 Avenue U. They have said that they don't, like Tracy said, they don't have any plans to move forward right now, but when they do have answers from CLC and they have a plan, they have committed to re-engaging with the community at that time. So we don't have more information to share now, but we do have the commitment from the developer to come back into the community, because I know this isn't the discussions and consultations that happened previously. It was the hope to access using those CLC lands. So I just wanted to share that we do have the commitment from the developer to re-engage with the community before any kind of construction starts, once there's more information on this.
That's good to know, Sarah. Thank you. That's great.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. And just so Tracy, those are the updates you have on the development applications in Ward 18, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And
before
if
we go
anyone
to
has questions, I haven't looked at the chat yet, but I've just posted our my email address and the email address for JC again. But if there's any questions.
okay. So I think what I will say, we're going to talk about the government project being canceled. We'll handle that in the next presentation from Mary Jarvis from Canada Lands. Sarah spoke to the access. There is a question I noticed in here. Sorry, I'm not the best at reading the chart with respect to, is there a community association in Eastway Gardens? So councillors don't really oversee the community associations. There is a community association in Eastway Gardens. I met with the president when I was elected, and she let me know that Eastway Gardens Community Association is very much focused on social activities. So many of my other community associations within Ward 18 are focused a lot on development. Alta Vista Community Association is a good example. They have a huge planning and development team that analyzes all the planning applications. Riverview Park Community Association also has planning, a planning group, and Elmvale Acres does as well. That doesn't exist in Eastway Gardens yet, but if there is a group of interested citizens that are interested in meeting and discussing these things, by all means, I consider that to, to be a group that is interested in these things, and I'm happy to come and provide updates. I have received a number of emails from residents in Eastway Gardens concerned that their community association doesn't discuss development. And that's part of the reason I wanted to have this meeting here tonight, to make sure that people were up to date. But in the absence of having one, or if you want to get a group together, I'm happy to come and provide regular updates. I don't always need the city planners. I do know my planning files, I would say, very well for a councillor. Yeah, just to answer that question. And are there any other questions? I unfortunately can't scroll the chat very well. That okay, the next piece we're going to go through. Just a quick question, Sarah, are we ready to proceed to Canada Lands, or did you say we're going to have another quick discussion?
Let's go ahead to Canada Lands, and then we'll have JC to speak about Bill 109 after we have that discussion.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Tracy, for the update on the Ward 18 developments. And I also do get questions about the development at Whitehorse, and there's nothing new on that file. That it's been stalled since I came in. And the other one that I often get questions with in Eastway Gardens is, what are the status of towers at train yards? And I did meet with the owner of train yards recently, and she let me know she's not proceeding with building any housing. So those apartment buildings that were planned for Steamline, just a little bit over, are not going ahead at this time. So I'll turn over to you, Mary, from Canada Lands. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Councillor Carr. And I apologize if I end up showing my tax refund or something else as I scroll through the presentation. And for those of you that are sort of, you don't recognize me, Mary Jarvis, I'm Senior Director with Canada Lands Company. for the National Capital Region and Atlantic, and I'm joined tonight with Phil Thibert. Phil, you can introduce yourself.
Good evening. I'm Phil Thibert. I joined Mary's team at Canada Lands about 3 months ago, and I'll be working on the Tremblay Road file.
Great. So can everyone see a screen? Yeah. Okay. So let's move to sugar screen. Sorry. There we go. So, the Tremblay Road lands located at Tremblay Road in San Laurent, just to the south side of the 174. It's actually a property that's owned by PSPC, and over the last 3 or 4 years, PSPC and CLC have been working together on some of these larger federal campus sites to integrate the federal disposal projects with the CLC planning projects. So at Tremblay Road, which is a 26-acre site, federal government just determined that they did not need the full 26 acres for their office component. So they identified an 8-acre site, which is the smaller square, the inside of just south of the existing Tremblay Road, as the block that would be set aside for future federal office, and the remaining lands, which are about 18 acres, would be sold to CLC, and CLC would become responsible for providing services, building the new road, and any other accessory uses. So in CLC started a public engagement process sometime in 2019, 2018. We worked through a plan of subdivision, which I'll show in my next slide. And at the same time, PSPC issued a procurement, a request for proposal for a proponent to build a 1.5 million square feet, or rather, yes, 1.5 million square feet of office space on the 8-acre site. So someone earlier mentioned the amount of traffic generated from this general office use. Following the RFP was issued, PSPC determined that a preferred proponent, so they did have a successful process, and as a result, they canceled the project. And in that RFP, the RFP for the 1.5 million square feet, presently PSPC is currently reassessing their option and for the site. And as a result, CLC, our work, are basically it's on hold until we get some direction from PSPC with respect to their plans for the 8 acres. So just as a reminder of what's entailed, this site is part of a hub. It's a transit-oriented development. I think Jean-Charles mentioned this earlier. Again, the federal office site is the 8-acre red, somewhat of a square in the center of the image. You're showing a realignment of Tremblay Road to be part of the plan of subdivision, the introduction of a new local road, which would give CLV access and frontage to Tremblay Road on the west end of the site. The yellow block is a parcel of land that's set aside for mid to low rise residential, even though that the site is zoned for up to 30 stories. The pink block is a mixed use site, and the zoning on the property would allow for 30-story buildings with commercial at grade. And then we have a 30-meter buffer along the rail line, a new city park, and a stormwater management pond, which would have to be fully landscaped. So what I can say at this point, that we have ceased all operations on the property. We are waiting for PSPC to signal their intent to deal with the property in the near to distant future. So what we can, Phil and I can commit to the two councillors and the community tonight is that when we know the direction on the site, we will gladly come back to the community and give an update. So that's the extent of my presentation.
Okay, thanks
Any
very much.
questions?
Oh, I do see there's one, Mary, and it's one that we've discussed before. It was the concern about the fact that the trees were cut at 599 Tremblay, and I know that that's really in the purview of the federal government, and they were planning to build on that land, and because it's Crown land, they did not need to have a tree permit, correct?
Oh, no, that's partially correct. So we did clear the trees in advance of servicing. Our initial plan was to service the site and have the roads built this June. So we would have been paving in June of 2023. Fortunately, due to the change in federal direction, that contract was terminated, and the site preparation work, which we did complete a tree conservation report, had that reviewed by the city forester, and obtained a permit for the tree cutting. So although the land is owned by federal government, CLC, which we are a non-agent Crown, we operate at arm's length. We are subject to all municipal approvals. So on this site, we are fulfilling both the federal requirements as well as any municipal requirements, such as obtaining a tree cutting permit.
Thank you very much. Just with respect to questions that have come up, and I don't think these are all for you, Mary. So there was a question about the section of Tremblay Road and awareness that there was a plan to wait until we put in the new road, but if it's not happening soon, will the road be resurfaced? Sarah from my office, I accidentally was texting the other Sarah because I didn't look at the Zoom. Could you please share the update? You've got the best update on Tremblay Road, and you'll probably be able to state it better than I will, I think.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that, but I'll just see, Tracy, do you want to take that question?
I don't have any information really on Tremblay Road, so
Yeah,
for you.
No problem. So in our conversations with the city, as it stands, this realignment of Tremblay Road would only be done through this project. Again, there's a lot of questions until we have a yes or no on whether this project on Tremblay Road goes ahead. We won't have an answer on the road and how the city would go about fixing the road. We do understand it's a priority, though. The councillor and myself have talked about this, about driving and taking the bus down there. It really is in dire need of repair. So if the project does not go ahead, then this is something we'll work with city staff to make sure that we do get it in a better state of repair.
Yeah, thanks very much. So basically, until we know the future of the Tremblay Road project, the city's not going to commit to resurfacing if the whole road is going to be rebuilt. So unfortunately, we are in a waiting game, but I certainly do appreciate the situation on Tremblay Road. I'm well aware of the condition of the road, and I know that it's super inconvenient. Are there any other questions with respect to, I think most of the other one, others answered. Are there any other questions on the Tremblay Road developments or on, there's one coming in just now. Oh, that was on, okay, the connection to the Tremblay multi-use connection, that they're doing the environmental assessment, the very first part of looking at whether or not they'll be able to connect the train station to train yards, which was promised. I now say it was promised at the turn of the century, which was about 2001.
And Councillor Carr, I was just going to say briefly too that residents can also reach out to my office as well around that EA study. So you can reach out to both of us, but we did see the initial kind of kickoff briefings around some of this work. And so we do have the presentations. And I also wanted to say just briefly as well, I know that Stephen from the OCA was asking some questions about active transportation schedules, and Councillor Carr is absolutely right about the priorities being set. But one item that we will explore with the community associations, at least for the Coventry developments, is the potential of using community benefit charges, that new regime. And our understanding is that we can utilize dollars once they start flowing in from these developments and direct them to potentially active transportation projects. So that's one of my hopes, as you reference, Lola, that we might be able to use that as a funding source to expedite the implementation of that active transportation infrastructure. Sorry, Marty.
No problem whatsoever. I did put that study, the environmental assessment study, on my website. So the link is in the chat, and then the Angela Taylor at Ottawa is very helpful, and she's the one that's looking at this environmental assessment to hopefully start that process. Are there any other questions that anyone else here has before we wind up?
Marty, we're not quite finished yet. We're going to do Bill 109.
Before we wind up these topics and move to the next one? Perfect. Thank you very much. And you can continue to ask questions and we'll get to them, either Councillor King or myself. So we'll go now to Dr. JC, who's going to give a presentation on Bill 109.
Oh, thanks, Councillor. I don't know if I'd call it a presentation, but I'll give you some information. So just assuming that some of you may have questions as to what exactly are Bill 109, I also will add Bill 23 to the mix. I thought I'd give you a brief overview. And when I say brief, I really do mean it, because there's a lot of moving parts, or a lot of different parts to these bills. But as far as what affects you as a residents and as it relates to these development applications. So the first one is Bill 109, the More Homes for Everyone Act from 2022. So basically the more important element of it is that it introduced new approval timelines for site plan control and for zoning bylaw. Notably for site plan control, they will need to be approved within 60 days of an application being deemed complete, and that is going to be effective starting July 1st of this year, so 15 days from now. In response to these modified timelines, the city is introducing a new pre-application consultation process in order to ensure that our ability to meet these timelines. And basically what that entails is, if you're familiar with our current pre-application consultation process, it's going to be more of the same. So multi-level pre-application consultation in order for us to have more discussions and a better understanding of the proposal at hand before the applicant comes in and makes a formal submission with the city. The members of local community associations that have signed the NDA that are part of our pre-consult process will remain involved. So no real changes from that aspect. So I don't know if I have much more to add to Bill 109, but that's in a nutshell what it does. Bill 23. The More Homes Built Faster Act from 2022. Again, there are many more parts to this bill. The bigger one that affects most people, most developers, is the adjustment to the threshold at which point site plan control is required. So it used to be that anything bigger than 3 residential units was required to go through site plan control, and now that number is 10 units. So anything 10 units or less residential buildings can go directly to building permit. So that has some challenges in terms of reviewing elements such as site stormwater management and whatnot. However, this city is pivoting and looking to adapt to that. There are more elements to it, such as how it deals with parkland and the CBC charges and things like that. But as brief as I can be, this is what might affect you the most in terms of residents. I don't know if there's any other questions. I'm sorry, I was distracted by jets flying by. I don't know if anybody else on the call can hear them, but in New Orleans, these jets are very, very loud. So
And I think
sorry if
there
I
was
seemed
just one question about speaking more to the parkland implications of some of the changes from the new legislation.
Sure thing. So if you bear with me 10 seconds, I will look to my notes here. So for parkland, so it had an effect as to the maximum amount of land that can be conveyed or paid in lieu. And that is 10%. So it's practically the same way that the city currently operates. So perhaps it had more impact on other municipalities around the province. And it actually brought it up to 15% for sites greater than 5 hectares, which might be few and far between for these areas, but I guess as we've seen in this presentation today, they do exist. Is there anything else? So the maximum dedication rate for land. So there's two things. There's park land dedication when we actually take park land, or there's cash in lieu of park land when the site's too small and we take cash instead. So the dedication rate has changed, so has been reduced to a maximum of 1 hectare per 600 units for when we accept land, and has been reduced to 1 hectare per 1,000 units when it comes to cash in lieu of parkland. And parkland dedication only applies to new units, but again, that's fairly common practice in Ottawa already.
So just translating that will mean a real reduction to the amount of money that is collected in those accounts when applications go forward. And that's obviously a provincial change. I think Stephen asked, along Coventry Road is the Hampton Inn, and behind it is the bigger courtyard Marriott, but there's no sidewalk leading to that big building. You have to walk in the private access lane with the cars. And I would attest to this. I do that a lot when I'm walking over to Max Keeping Bridge to get to Tremblay Station. You can feel quite unsafe. How do we ensure these new developments do not lack such pedestrian safe accesses?
So that comes down to the exercise of site plan control review when these sites are redeveloped. Unfortunately, that's not a feature of the site in question that Stephen's referring to. However, it has been common practice, especially in these new land developments, that we have specific pedestrian aisles within the site to protect pedestrians from the vehicles circulating within the parking areas. So that, and in addition to that, just adding more greenery and other elements like that make the space more welcoming and just better for everyone.
And one of the other things I was just going to chime in and say is obviously the legislative changes has a changed site plan. So officially, councillors are now removed from that specific process. But we want you to know that councillors are concerned about this. And we worked yesterday. I know I worked with the head of the chair of the Planning and Housing Committee to move forward a motion that will relay and share information with planners around site plan. So, we acknowledge that we don't have a formal role, but we want to still listen to communities. And I think that staff would have done this anyway, probably without this intervention, but I thought it was important to ensure that there was an intervention to say there should be at least somewhere in the process a way for us to relay challenges such as broken connections or lack of connectivity, which was specifically placed in that motion that was approved by council actually yesterday on top of the Bill 109 recommendations. So just want you to know that there will be a mechanism for councillors' offices to still provide input around these concerns at site plan. Of course, it will be up to staff to ascertain and determine the relevant application of those recommendations. And there might be one more comment. When we had public consultations with CLV re-access to the building site, we were told that the interim access would be via Avenue U pending the completion of the new road. Now that the CLC project is canceled, and if CLV is going to proceed with its development, I'm concerned that the access may revert back to Avenue P. The community was strongly against using Avenue P for access due to the school bus pickup drop-off and the curve. I expect there will be more community objection once CLV plans to proceed. So I think that's just a comment.
Rawlson, or sorry, Councillor King, just to jump in, I think Mary wanted to either respond to that or make a further clarification on the Trombley developments.
Yes, and thank you, Sarah. I love your response here, which someone else can read. I won't read to everyone, but and I'll turn to my video. Sorry about that. It's just that the office component has been canceled. We are waiting for direction from PSPC on the remainder of the site. The entire site has been declared surplus, so we know that there will not be a federal use there, but it's just the timing of the next phase on that property. So again, as Sarah very clearly laid out, we will be back to the community once we know more, but at this point, we're in a holding pattern.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that response. I'm not seeing any other questions. So at this point, I didn't know if Councillor Carr wanted to just make some final closing comments.
No, thank you very much, Councillor King. I appreciate that. No, I just want to encourage everyone from my ward to reach out to me. I know that not having updates is sometimes disconcerting as well. I know there's lots of questions about what's going on, but please feel free. And I know that there's a lot of interest in having more regular community meetings. And so I'm absolutely open to gathering information and meeting more with you, and I can come to the community as well. So just wanted to let you know that, and I appreciate you all taking the time tonight. And Councillor King is an absolutely wonderful councillor. I think he is the one of the most calmest and professional councillors there is. Ward 13 is very lucky to have him. But he and I are very committed to working together. We want to make sure that as these areas develop, that we also have the right facilities, and that's why we wanted to have this meeting. We see all the development coming on both sides, and we're going to want to make sure that we advocate for all the services that the residents need as well. So this will be the first of many meetings over our terms. Thank you so much.
And I really do appreciate those comments. I feel the same way, as we've worked very collaboratively on many areas, including housing and social services, and our communities neighbor each other. So I think it is important for us, and we are seeing the pace of development and the potential of that development. And as I said before, I think these developments are important in terms of addressing the housing crisis, in terms of the lack of housing. We share the concerns around affordability. So I do know that my colleague and I, every project, even if we can't compel, we are asking about the nature of the developments and the need for housing affordability. And we see the benefits of master planned communities, in a sense, that are done close to transit, so that we can encourage that transit use and mass the use of mass transit to really leverage the investment, the multi-billion dollar investment that the city is making into LRT. So we're going to continue to work together, especially also around these connectivity pieces, because it will be important for Overbrook to have that enhanced connectivity. The first piece is there with the Max Keeping Bridge, but we also need to look at access to train yards and other communities as well. So we're going to continue to work very closely with our community associations, our offices, with city staff, and with developers as applications come in terms of the analysis of some of those applications if they are subjected to council scrutiny. So I really do appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules and out of the dinner hour to join us. And we're sure that we will invite you once again at some point to a joint meeting, because I really enjoyed this, and we always enjoy hearing from residents, and we really do value your input. So thank you so much for joining us this evening.